Squatting is learned from the ground up. This is what they talk about. And Czech talked about this first, and then Gray started talking about the idea of primitive patterns. And I don't know necessarily that Czech was the first guy to talk about primitive patterns. I know he was the first person that I saw talk about primitive patterns. And he might have called them primal patterns. I forget. But either way. But in this idea, squatting, and I've done this demo a million times, okay? This is squatting. Right? You're at home. What are you doing? You're crawling around. And suddenly you get overcome by the urge to squat. And what do? You walk over like near the couch, like this, and you get into a squat position. In this situation, what you're in this position, usually you're holding on to something. It's almost always a couch or a chair. You're looking around for your parents because you want to make sure you get the appropriate applause when you pull this movement off, right? So you're looking around. Is anybody watching? If nobody's watching, you go back to crawling. If somebody is watching, you grab on, and what do? You're like, the first squat. You get the big applause from your parents. You fall flat on your ass, right? You go back to crawling, and you repeat the procedure. Squatting as a learned pattern is a bottom-up pattern. No kid learned to squat with his dad, okay, we're going to work on squatting, and he goes in the room and he starts doing squats. No, he learned to squat he was on all fours, and then he did his little Turkish get-up thing, and he got to here, and then he sat in this low kind of hanging squat in the bottom, and then he went like this. So what Gray talks about, which is brilliant, is the idea, if you have someone who can't squat, what do? You reboot the software. How do you reboot the software? Well, you take them, you drop them down into that bottom position, you ask them to reach their hands up over their head and have them stand up. And it's amazing. You'll take people who can't squat, and then they can. So this is the melting candle person, right? Yeah, everybody has that client, right? Where you show them a perfect squat. This is what I want you to do. Just like this. And you show a perfect body weight squat, and then they go, you mean like this? And you're like, no, that isn't what I meant at all. I didn't show you any adduction or internal rotation. I didn't show you any of that stuff. But what they see as squatting is like flexion collapse. I adduct, I internally rotate, I flex my spine. I'm like, is this good? I can stand up again. If you take that same horrible squatter and you say, touch your toes, sit down, stay here, put your hands up, very often you'll get a squat. You'll be like, oh. I've done it enough times where I'm like, man, Gray Cook's smart. That's such a simple, like he said, reboot of the software. So try that. Try 10. Now I think